Looks delicious, doesn't it? You don't have to go far for great food here in Hong Kong. In fact, many arguments over favourite places to go for lunch and dinner. But since the beginning of the protest, there's also been a deep division when it goes to restaurants. They've been labelled yellow ribbon restaurants, blue ribbon restaurants. Yellow ribbon support the protest, blue ribbon support the police. And it's even led to some reprisals, people abandoning certain restaurants, and there has been also some attacks. When Annie Kwok opened her stall, flight attendant with beef and rice 3 years ago, she could never have imagined this. After showing her support for Hong Kong police by giving cops the occasional free meal or drink, online her stall was branded a blue ribbon establishment. And overnight her business was in trouble.
Well, when they firstly separate the restaurant in yellow and blue color, our business really drops a lot because before this issue, most of our customers are teenagers. It's around dropping 30 to 50% in a few days.
But it didn't stop there. Protesters called the Hong Kong Health Department with fake complaints and spread fake reviews online.
Saying that my food is awful, my shop is dirty, lots of cockroach, and we're not polite to the customer, blah, blah, blah. But they're all not true. They're all fake comments because we've been running for 3 years and we never had a negative comment on any social media or platform.
Many other food stalls and restaurants have received similar treatment, some even vandalised, some forced to close, but not Annie. When word about her plight got around, those who supported her bought her food. Donations flooded in. Now business is back and better than ever, and she now has enough to give these coupons to local police stations, a free meal and a drink to say thank you.
I really don't want to see why there's always differentiating people into colors, into different voices, right? I think in Hong Kong there should be harmony and should be one community that you allow people to have different voices, right?
In this tight space with different politics and many different types of food, the stallholders get along despite their differences. Their customers, though, continue to divide themselves between blue and yellow.
Alaska Pollock is the main export of this seafood company. It saw a large drop in contracts last July when the U.S. imposed a 10% tariff on their products that led to a huge pileup in their depot for months.
I was in the biggest trouble in my career.
Wei was uncertain of when the trade row would be resolved. He decided to seek out new markets and diversify product lines. They made the frozen pollock fillets more attractive by developing dozens of tastes after months of service overseas. The strategy proved effective. In the first 10 months of this year, the company's imports and exports reached $48 million, the same level it did in the same period a year ago.
Markets such as EU, ASEAN, Australia, South Korea, and Japan have imported over 80% of our products.
The company is expecting more sales as freight train services have expanded its network in the region. Local authorities have prioritized such services, increasing the number of direct cargo trains and the routes heading to Europe and Central Asia.
We will improve the infrastructure and increase the trains, so the exports companies will have more platforms to sell products in the countries along Belt and Road.
Despite sluggish demand from the U.S. market, Wei says his company has been operating at full capacity, seeing an increase in orders from the UK and France.
This is a video of a wedding in Luntai County in northwest China's Xinjiang. The girl who is dancing is the groom's sister, May. At the age of 21, she was studying medical rehabilitation in college.
那天我跟妈妈一起上街。
On September 21st, 2014, she accompanied her parents to go shopping. It was that day that terrorists struck.
在步行街那头上，就蹦迪一声就我倒下了。
Шундый хэл юулсам каз балның бүтэн даяада турдум. Өзім ұқмадым шундаға қарбой құтқызған адам бой баламның болған сәфлаш өзім ұқмай қалдым.
抬头一看就看到了腿在那边，小腿在那边。
May's amputation required 2 operations. Lazajay, who took part in the attack, was also caught in the explosion. She lost her right leg and arm. Lazajay and May were in the same hospital.
Saudi oil company Aramco's IPO will be the biggest in history. The state-owned oil giant priced its IPO at 32 reals, or $8.53 per share, the top of its indicative range. That would raise $25.6 billion, beating Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba's record $25 billion listing in 2014. At that level, Aramco has a market valuation of $1.7 trillion, overtaking Apple as the world's most valuable listed firm.
The share price announcement and listing of Aramco is to consolidate Aramco's position in international and domestic market, and at the same time, improve the vitality of the company and its information transparency. But as international oil prices are influenced by a combination of various factors, Aramco is only a small part of those factors, so the successful implementation of its listing plan will have a relatively limited impact on oil prices.
OPEC forecasts a growth of 1.4 million barrels per day by 2024, while bearish estimates have growth around 800,000.
There's some severe concerns on the horizon for 2020. The Beijing-Washington trade spat is yet to be resolved. We've got Brexit. We don't know how that will be resolved, whichever way the UK election goes. And there's still 2 more years of haggling with the European Union. All these issues on the horizon, demand is going to be key here, and it may not be as strong as a lot of people are imagining it might be.
The listing is expected later this month on the Riyadh Stock Exchange.
For Graham Forbes, checking on the level of the area's only running river.
Normally there'd be up around that 3 mark there on the
become a depressing task.
It would be down and only running about 20% of its normal flow.
The Barrington River serves hundreds of dairy farms in this part of rural New South Wales. But increasingly, the Barrington is not able to handle the job as it and the land around it continues to fall victim to a vicious drought.
We've had to reduce stock numbers dramatically so far this year. I think we've sold over 600 head. We've been able to maintain production up until now, but our irrigation supply has virtually been cut off now, and we'll be forced to go on to all purchase feeds, and that's carting hay up to 1,500 kilometres from South Australia, so we can do it for a little while, but it's not sustainable.
Some farmers haven't had irrigation for almost a year, now forced to cart water in along with increasingly expensive feed. Any chance of profits have long dried up with the land.
If this drought persists through this summer, we could lose half the dairy farms in this region.
The river here is also the only water source for the town of Gloucester's 2,500 residents. If this stops flowing, the town has 2, maybe 3 days tops before it completely runs out of water.
Yep. Thank you.
At Gloucester Rural Supplies, workers here know better than most just how much the drought has impacted everyone.
We do find that customers tend to lean on us a little bit and tell us how they're really feeling, because at the end of the day they've only got their animals to talk to. So, and it's actually starting to just have an effect on our staff now, because it's just day in, day out, repetitive downside on what they're trying to achieve in life.
Many towns are now forced to plan for scenarios that just a few years ago seemed unthinkable.
It's difficult, but you just need to be as positive as you can be to try and help these people through it.
And hope for the kind of rains that will bring back rivers and profits.